All right, everybody, Giants fans, NFL fans, welcome to another episode of Talkin Ball live postgame with Pat Leonard of the New York Daily News. As you can see, not in the press box in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Daily News told me to stay home in New Jersey, keep my eyes on the skies for more airplanes with banners telling John Mara to fire Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. Just kidding on that last part, but obviously did not go down south this month because, frankly, was not deemed worthy of the trip. And the Giants validated that belief, validated that decision by putting an absolute laugher on the field. Brian Daboll's offense completing it and filling out our Giants' pathetic bingo card with 5 penalties and a turnover on downs on their final drive of a 34-7 butt kicking by an Atlanta Falcons team that is not good at all. This is a bad Falcons team. You saw them trying to give it back to them, trying to give the Giants opportunities early on. Giants just don't have it in them to take care of it, take advantage. Drew Lock with 2 pick sixes, but something new every week. We saw Daboll losing his cool a lot during this game. Can only imagine how much it was happening at the stadium. I could see a lot of it right there on camera, watching on television on Fox. And I think that at this point, it's beating a dead horse to talk about how bad this is. I think what we should do is get into more of the argument of why cleaning house is the only decision here. And I know we've been talking about that for several weeks, but I feel like the pushback that the Giants are giving to that idea publicly warrants further pushback right on that fact and that direction and that belief, in my opinion, there. Because the fact of the matter is, NFL teams don't get this bad when there is a plan being executed, when there is a strong foundation being placed. This does not happen. This is not normal. This is not something that can be normalized if you're a Giants fan or somebody associated with this organization. And frankly, the only thing missing today compared to some of these other embarrassments was an airplane flying overhead. And guess what? We'll be right back at it next week when the Giants go to likely 0-9 at home. It would be the first 0-9 season in NFL history. If they do that, it would be their first winless season at home in quite some time, several decades. And the Giants now at 2-13, 2 games to play. Absolutely pathetic. Would love to hear from you guys some new things that you saw on the field, reasons why you feel like this is turning over. There might be some of you who feel like despite it getting this bad, you're just happy they lost and they're closer to that number 1 pick. Found it interesting that Jesse Bates, the third, the safety from the Falcons, when he scored on the first of 2 pick sixes, did the Deion Sanders touchdown celebration with Deion's son, Shador, possibly headed to New York as the number 1 pick next year. But thank you for being here. Patrick reminds everybody here, hit that sub and like button. Please subscribe to the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard YouTube channel here. It's PL on NFL on YouTube on the Believe Network. Please subscribe to the page and please hit those like buttons while we are live here as I pop the collar of this Notre Dame quarter zip that I'm wearing in honor of the Irish's college football playoff win over Indiana. But really appreciate it. All the engagement live while we talk ball really helps grow our community on YouTube. It tells Giants and NFL fans out there that we are live, that we are doing this every week, and that we are only continuing to grow and continuing to include more fans, more personalities, and more people in our conversation. That only makes it better. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate you guys for being here. Hunter says, when will this shit show be over? And also says, and this comes from me as well, good afternoon, Pat. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and yours. Right back to you, Hunter. Thank you so much for wishing everybody well here, for bringing those good tidings and that good cheer. Looking forward to talking ball with you guys here now, courtesy of my bookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98 Coffee. Remember, we will do an Estate 98 Giants giveaway. So be here looking for our Giants trivia question. Anybody who wins that in the comment section will win a free bottle of Estate 98 Coffee. So first, it's my bookie, win money every week, every month, betting football with me and my bookie. It's mybookie.ag. You got to create your account there now. Use the Pats Picks promo code, Pats Picks. That's PATSPICKS, and get a 50% match on your first deposit of $50 or more all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Been rolling this year, hit again on a Pat's Pick Giants sprinkle with Darnell Mooney going, I think it was plus 225, going over 80 receiving yards. That hit. Hope you guys played that. And going with our best bets and also all of our picks against the spread that you can always find in the daily news every week as well. But that's my bookie bet anything, anytime, anywhere. If you want to support our channel, that is the best way. Go sign up today. Also, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, natural extract, loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today. Use the Talkin Ball 25 code or use this QR code on your screen right here. You'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. So again, subscribe and save, buy a bag, costs you only $30. You don't have to stay subscribed if you don't want to, but I do think if you buy it, you'll like it and you'll stay for more. But that's Boom Chaga. Start feeling the difference today, boomchaga.com. And last but not least, Estate 98 Coffee. Estate 98 Coffee is a specialty coffee concentrate, perfect for when you want to make a quick cup of coffee and skip the lines. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced or hot coffee. It's great as a mixer for espresso martinis, and each bottle makes up to 16 cups. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get an exclusive offer for 80% off your first order. Thanks for watching here on YouTube. PL on NFL is the channel on the Believe Network. Thanks for listening on Apple and Spotify. If you're listening on audio, please join us live next time on YouTube. And with that, we will get into our queue. Remember, if you purchase a super chat or a super sticker, I will answer your question first or address your opinions immediately. So that's the way to jump to the top of the queue. We get started now with Kyler saying, I hate it here anyways. What's up, Pat? I'm wide-eyed on that Estate 98. Yeah, that's right. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you were trying to get a little hopped up on that Estate 98, get a little bit of a caffeine buzz going for a Giants victory. At least what you want to see in these games, even if you are cheering for the number one pick and you don't want the Giants to win a game and slip all the way down to the fourth or fifth or sixth pick, whatever it is, you still, when we're evaluating the coach and the general manager, like Joe Schoen says at the bye week, that we're not far off, right? And since he said that at that point, I want to read you some stats to you. The Giants have been outscored 140-59. And those stats are actually even misleading because 32 of the Giants' 59 points have been scored in the fourth quarter during that stretch, including 24 of which were scored in blowouts at the end when they're trying to make the score look better than it actually was. So this is not a typo. Listen to this. In their last 5 games, the Giants have scored a total of 27 points in their first 3 quarters. So that's 15 quarters of football in the last 5 weeks, 27 total points scored in that stretch. That's an indictment of Joe Schoen. That's an indictment of Brian Daboll. It's an indictment of the team they're putting on the field. And as I wrote for the New York Daily News here on Sunday, December 22nd, this idea, I feel like that has been pushed by the Giants that Daboll should be fired and Daboll and Schoen should stay is a completely dishonest way of attributing blame and evaluating why this has gone so wrong and is so bad. The idea that they would profess faith and confidence in Schoen while blaming Daboll when it looks like this is outrageous. It's outrageous. It is a ridiculous suggestion. Anybody selling that as a solution isn't watching the games, isn't thinking for themselves. And you saw this week, obviously, we had a huge, uproar from the Giants content creator base and fan base over, pushback coming to the Giants content creators and people in the Giants content creator community who are only saying what they are seeing, right? That is this thing that I've been always stressing to Giants fans, to people in the Giants content creator community, and to longtime fans who saw me come onto the beat in 2016 and look at this and say that something's really wrong here. All I've ever been doing is telling people what I see and what people in the league who know more about football than I do and are closer to the situation with the Giants and NFL teams than I do. All of that is all it's just conversation and reporting and honesty and truth about how bad it is behind the scenes and about why it's so unacceptable and why, listen, you can, and the Giants certainly do, and their regime that's in charge right now certainly does. You can try every which way to make it look better or sound better than it actually does. You can try to come to the press conference like Joe Shane did in the bye week and say, look at all these one-score games, right? But the people who spend their hard-earned money and time and effort on whether it's cheering for the team, whether it's creating content around and about the team, whether it's being passionate about this franchise, people don't want to be told something that isn't true. They don't want to be lied to. They don't want to be spun. They don't want to be disrespected. They want to see winning football and a better product. And the fact of the matter is this: even if the lone remaining hope is we're going to get the first overall pick and we're going to have a pick to get a better quarterback and assemble a better team, even if that's the lone remaining hope, right? If that's your lone remaining hope for the Giants, guess what? This team is so much further away from competing at a competitive level, at being a team that's respectable on an NFL field, than just a quarterback or one player there. It's outrageous. It is hard to explain how much further they are than just that player and pick. Daniel Saint checks in with a $7 super chat, says, Merry Christmas to you, Pat. It sucks to keep changing coaches, but I really think it's a bad idea to bring back that staff that specializes in losing. Yeah, you can see, Daniel, that, listen, this will sound funny or ridiculous, but now that you guys have watched the games with me, I think you'll understand what I'm saying. There are plenty of coaches and coaching staffs out there that if you gave them a roster of retreads and afterthoughts, they could find a way to coach situationally to stay competitive in games compared to what we're watching now on the field, right? And the thing that gets me, and this comes from Joe Shane all the way down, Brian Dable and his coaching staff included, what gets me is now the constant leaks and the insistences, on these sidebar stories, or you hear it on these broadcasts, that essentially, half the time, some of the comments, you wonder, who they actually work for. All of these, like the amount of excuses, the amount of, let's say, repurposed statistics that try to make it sound and look better than it actually is. It is such a bad look to be fighting all of these so-called outside narratives and trying to sell the fan base things that just aren't true. Anyway, Kyler, you got me going. Kyler says, Giants suck so bad, I'm not even mad. I laughed several times at the Giants today. All you can do is laugh and like and subscribe at this point. Thank you, Kyler. Thanks for always being in and supporting. Iconic, what's up, Pat? Maybe it's this week. Great to see you, Iconic. Maybe it's this week is right as far as firings. Patrick says, like I said a month ago, this team is soft tanking. Just get the quarterback to help start a new chapter. Hey, John Mara's always said he would never tank, right? But what do you see on the field? Candyman says, not mad at all, even won my under in spite of Locke. Steve says, insane that Locke has a job. Dable might as well suit up and play quarterback. But again, if you're mad at Drew Locke, that was Joe Shane and Brian Dable's signing to have a good backup quarterback to Daniel Jones, not to mention somebody who was actually was supposed to be competing with Daniel Jones at the start of training camp for the job. Daniel Hirsch, always supporting us. Thank you so much, Daniel, says the Giants are soft. Neighbors meant it. No doubt. No doubt. This is a team. There are plenty of guys putting their bodies on the line out there. But Daniel, to your point, like, do you see guys fighting for this regime right now? Like, to me, there's a difference between guys playing hard to try to make, to try to put their best football on tape or try to be their best when somebody's watching their film, right? They're trying hard in that sense, and they're putting their bodies on the line. But are they being hard-nosed to play for this coach and play for this GM and play for this team? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not at all. And you heard Moose Johnston say that Darius Slayton was saying how much better everything is now than it's been in the past and some of these other losing teams. Slayton said that after last week's game too. I just view that as Darius doing what Saquon Barkley did last year. Just toe the company line. Don't sound like someone who's throwing everyone under the bus because you're going to be a free agent and you don't want that on your resume. And how about Moose Johnston saying that during a fourth quarter of a 34-7 embarrassing ass kicking? How about that? Oh, yeah, hey, listen, everything's better behind the scenes than it used to be. Okay, all right. Thanks, Moose. Let's see. Daniel, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate you. Brett says, why cut to the Lions pretending to screw up when we had the real thing? Staff is done. Staff is done. Manzo says, Shane thought it was a good idea to let Russell Wilson walk out the door for pennies and sign Drew Lock for $5 million, and you're telling me he still has a job? Exactly, Manzo. Here, this is what I said on our last Talkin Ball. It's what I've written in the Daily News and what I think needs to be said here as well. If this doesn't get a regime fired, what does? What does? Woody Johnson's getting made fun of for making a decision based off of players' Madden rating. If Joe Shane and the Giants had used Madden ratings the last 2 years, their team would be better now. Hunter says, I legit think we would lose by 6.5 to the Raiders. Right. This is something that, listen, the Falcons are bad. The Falcons are a bad team. They are a bad team, the Falcons. And the Giants didn't even belong on the field with them. Got their asses kicked. JB says, fire everybody this week. Joey B says, everyone should be fired. The team shouldn't be allowed on the plane back home. This is absolutely the worst football I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen Cannell and Brown. Manzo says they need to fire all of them immediately so they can get a jump on the hiring process as soon as possible. No doubt. Alex says, Giants general manager thought Penix wasn't good. Michael Penix Jr. beating them head-to-head after they passed on him in the NFL draft. A2Z Me says, as long as John Mara is running this team, they will never get better. He'll always find a way to screw everything up. Matt Smith says, the New York Daily News didn't pay to send you to Atlanta. What happened to a once great publication? Matt, I will never defend the Daily News not sending me anywhere. So I'm not going to sit here and defend that decision. You know, we should always be there. I should always be there. I always fight to be there. And so not going to defend that. I will say that because of my sourcing, my passion for this, and my ability to see the game, I believe, and my desire to bring you guys the closest and best Giants content possible week in and week out, that my observations, my analysis, other than obviously I'm not standing there in front of players in the locker room today. So that's a bummer, and you do wish that you were there doing that. But I'm able to connect with players, coaches, executives, and the people around the league to give you guys a full review of what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and what it is. But that's a fair point by you, Matt. I'm not going to defend you, or I'm not going to argue with you or defend the decision not to be there. We should always be at games. And trust me, I always fight to be at games. Iconic says, Pat, we need to go through coaches and GM replacements. Yeah, no, I mean, you know, anything needs to be on the table. I think you need to make a long list. If you're John Mara and the Giants, you need to go around the league. You need to bring in everyone and anyone. You need to hire a consultant to help you do it. You need people with experience. You need someone who's done it before. That's what you need. And one thing you need is you need people who, like Joe Shane and Brian Daboll as first-timers, I don't think they were prepared for the New York market and to handle the way that they're being criticized. They spend too much time looking at the press clippings. I think that you need people who are just going to do the work. Like, stop thinking that the way that you are covered is the reason for your record. Your record is what it is. You get credit for the wins. You get blame for the losses. That's how it goes. If I criticize you or if a podcast criticizes you, has nothing to do with your operation or the product on the field. So stop pretending that it does. Grow up. John says, concerned with Malik Neighbors' consistent illegal shift penalties. Is that pure laziness or is that coaching? 2 weeks left, still isn't lining up like the other wide receivers. Hey, John, how about Dable after the game saying the one that was called on Neighbors was actually on somebody else? Making excuses for this kid. This is what happens when you try to be players' friends instead of coaching them, right? All of these like, hey, let's coddle the guys. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Everything good, right? This is what happens. This guy pops off in the locker room, says the team is soft and the guy can't call plays. Now illegal shifts left and right every week. I have to actually go back and check. This is something that isn't getting coached out of him, continues to happen. That's a great point, John. I'm glad you brought it up. This is what happens when you try to be buddy-buddy with the players instead of coaching the damn team. That's what it is. And it's coaching. And it's laziness. It's all the above. It's what happens when you don't hold a player accountable and you have different standards for different people. Candyman says, Pat, what's the plan for offseason? Talking ball once a week. Love to hear your thoughts on the draft. Merry Christmas. Candy. Well, might as well tell you guys now. Actually, I'm not going to share that yet. I have some exciting plans in the works for the next couple months for Talking Ball. But Candy, I think what we'll end up doing is a minimum of once a week. And then maybe during the playoffs, have some special episodes with guests and then ramping up to the Super Bowl. And after that, I mean, Candyman, the offseason brings a fantastic opportunity to have a lot of interesting guests on talking about how organizations are run, who are they going to draft, what do draft prospects look like, breaking down the film. So we're going to have a lot of content coming up for all of that. Looking forward to that. But yes, you can count on it at least once a week. Definitely need to solidify the schedule for what it's looking like. Down the stretch of this season here, like coming off of this week, we have Christmas during the week. I think probably expect just another Talkin Ball Postgame live after the Colts game as our next episode after this. Obviously, we'll have Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard with Benny Fowler, breaking down all of the league-wide action during the week. So you can count on that coming on Monday, tomorrow. But outside of that, definitely going to look to get a lot going on Talkin Ball. I have a lot in the works. I can't wait to share it with all of you. Been doing a lot of work behind the scenes and less sleeping than I normally do to make this happen. So I can't wait to share it with you guys. Obviously, if there are any, this is one thing you can all count on, Talking Ballers here. If the Giants make any drastic changes, if they fire anybody, we will go immediately. As soon as I can, I will go immediately live. So if the Giants fire anyone on Monday, if they fire anybody, later in the week, coming off of, the Colts game, whatever it is, you can trust that we will be live immediately as soon as possible here on Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. All right, let's see. Johnny says, hey, Pat, any blowback you can speak of just being a guest on a podcast that went off on Giants PR? Don't the powers that be see that there's a disconnect between fans and the team? Johnny, I did not receive any criticism or blowback from being a guest with the Revival guys. That was a fun podcast to be on. I empathize with them. I was honored to be on that. I look forward to, going on more podcasts and having more of those content creators on my own, and have that content creator series pick up for sure. Excited about that. Don't the powers that be see there's a disconnect between the fans and the team? You know what, Johnny? I thought that was a good example. The frustrations voiced by the Talkin' Giants guys and the frustration voiced by the Revival guys and the content creators in general. I think, listen, as far as how you get credentialed and who gets welcomed into practices and things like that, that's one thing, right? That's a separate issue. I think the issue of if you're receiving a phone call or pushback / access threats over criticism, then that is not acceptable. And, I think that, I think the Giants should understand that. And I think that that should be a self-evident thing. I do believe, as I said on the Revival podcast, did not surprise me that there were allegations of a Giants content creator being raked over the coals privately for criticizing the team. That did not surprise me. That's the best way I can say it. And yes, I do not disagree with the Revival guys that disconnect does exist, and that these types of situations it warrants further examination of why this franchise is where it is and why it isn't moving forward into the future as far as how it operates in many different ways. Crazy Man says, we need to clean house. I was here at home wearing a paper bag on my head. A paper bag on his head, on his couch. Crazy Man 86, living up to his name and living up to rooting for this Giants team. Thank you for sharing. Hunter says we could trade Patrick Mahomes and we would still F it up with the two clowns running it all. Trade for Patrick Mahomes, you mean? Yeah, this is the thing. Like, that's one explanation for why Brian Daboll should be fired is, as bad as this is, if you put Kevin O'Connell as the coach of this team, the Giants unquestionably, let's look at the beginning of the season. Forget the team that's on the field now, right? Look at the beginning of the season. If you gave that roster to Kevin O'Connell, this wouldn't have been a good team, but it would have been a better team, right? We can all agree on that. So that right there is just, and when I say Kevin O'Connell, I mean like Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores. So you go to Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, like if you put that staff, drop them in on week one, you drop them in on this Giants roster, this team would have been better, okay? That's number one. But that said, the roster would not have made it a good team. The roster would have been riddled with holes, and they would have been still limited severely in what they could accomplish. And really, in that sense, it would have been a situation where it would have been more obvious to the Giants owners maybe how bad the general manager was. Because right now, the coaching is so bad, it's like they think they can sell to the fan base, well, let's just bring in better coaches and we'll have a better team. That's the problem. No, that's not the problem. The problem is all of the above, right? If you had a better coaching staff in here, they might even be walking into the owner's office and saying, what am I working with here? What is going on? I'm squeezing, every single drop out of this that I can, but we don't have a tackle. We don't have a guard at the start of training camp. We got to go sign a guy. We don't have adequate depth. We don't have a number one corner. We don't have a true number one wide receiver. We have a rookie learning on the fly. We don't have a tight end, even though we spend assets on one every single year. Man, getting fired up here. Randy says they can't effectively evaluate quarterbacks on the roster. They shouldn't get to pick next quarterback. Absolutely right, Randy. The fact of the matter is there are three major quarterback decisions, and this goes to Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. Three major quarterback decisions. Pay Daniel Jones instead of tagging him or instead of letting him walk or whatever. So Daniel Jones is number one. Number two is passing on a quarterback in the NFL draft. Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. Number three is signing Drew Lock as your backup. And then look at all the details of that decision that went wrong. Drew Lock doesn't adequately compete with Daniel Jones in training camp, right? That's number one. You also get Drew Lock hurt in the preseason with bad pass protection, okay? You can throw that in as two. When Daniel Jones gets released, shut down, and then requests his release and is released, the Giants go to whom? The Giants go to Tommy DeVito. They go over Drew Lock's head. DeVito worse than Drew Lock. Now you tell Drew Lock you don't think he's any good. DeVito doesn't do well, right? Now you have to go to Drew Lock. You end up going to then Tommy DeVito, Tim Boyle. You're going back and forth, back and forth. Even in my mind, how is Tim Boyle not the number two for this game? Tim Boyle, listen, this is insane that I'm even having this conversation, right? But because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. But didn't Tim Boyle show you last week that he can throw the ball better than Tommy DeVito down the field? So why is Tommy DeVito coming out of the concussion protocol your number 2 in this game behind Drew Lock? What are we doing? Like somebody said the soft tank earlier. I mean, there's nothing soft about it, really. But those are the kind of things that happen that make you say, this team's obviously tanking, right? You know? Jay Farry's my guy. Merry Christmas, Pat, to your family. You always keep it real and bring the realistic takes to the fans. No bullshit, talking head, Giants garbage. A man of honor, as real as it gets. Thank you, Jay. And thank you always for being here. Daniel says, I think the Brian Flores stuff is messing with ownership as they decide about a new coach and general manager. I genuinely wonder, like I might leave this talking ball conversation and my first call might be about to some people about Brian Flores because, you know, I don't know. Maybe you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe you resolve a lawsuit and improve your program in 1 shot. What do you say? Thank you, Daniel. Miguel says, fire everyone. Timothy says, I'm confused. I guess we're tanking. They put everyone on IR. What's Mara's game? He's approving of this and will keep Dable and Shane. Should I believe in this process? Right, exactly, Timothy. Listen, he said he would never tank. So if you take John Mara at his word, which I always do, he's not tanking. So if he's not tanking, this is what they're trying to win, and this is what it looks like. And let me be clear here. One thing that I have not covered, I have not done as much reporting on this as I could have, but I'm about to, because I've used my observational skills, but I'm saying I haven't dug as deep as I could and will. All these Giants players, prominent players who they get banged up or they get injured, they disappear. They disappear from the locker room. We haven't seen Dexter Lawrence since he got hurt in Dallas. We haven't seen Bobby Okereke since he got hurt in Dallas. These are captains, leaders of the team. Why aren't they sticking around in front of us? Why aren't they speaking for the team? Bobby Okereke was not even on injured reserve until today. Why? Why aren't they around? Why don't we see these guys? Why do players get injured and disappear? Andrew Thomas, surgery, disappears, right? Why does this happen? Could it be because they don't believe in this program? That is why. I'm not even calling out all those guys individually. I'm calling out the reason that they're not standing up and speaking for the team anymore. It's because they don't believe in what the team is. How's this defense working out without Wink Martindale and the Wilkins brothers, by the way? Looks pretty good, huh? Patrick says they're tanking, Pat. That's why. I said they were soft tanking a month ago. That's why. So, Patrick, you're telling me that John Mara has okay to tank? That's what you're saying? I mean, that is the absolute last thing John Mara has said he ever will be accused of or will ever do. That's from his words. Patrick, you make a great point. You make a great point. What's the other explanation is your point, right? That they're tanking, of course. That's what it looks like. All these quarterback decisions, all of the way that they look on the field. But Patrick, why would they be trying to lose 34-7? Why would they be trying to be embarrassed? Why would they keep going to who they think the better quarterback is to try to get a better result on the field? They're trying to win these games. People are tapping out on them. Players are tapping out on them. Miguel says, fire everyone. All right, I read that already. G-Man says, Evan Neal's faceplant block was absolutely hilarious. So many bad examples of bad football in this game. That was a really bad one from Evan Neal. Johnny says, how does Shane survive completely misreading the market on Saquon and practically paving a road to the Super Bowl for the Eagles? Again, if this doesn't get you fired, what does? Hunter says, Pat, you need to be sponsored by alcohol to watch this damn team. I'm working on an alcohol sponsor, Hunter. I totally agree with you. I was working on Screwball. I don't know where they're at. We'll get one going, though. Jay says, hi, Pat. Who do you think has shown he should come back next year of these young, unproven players? I mean, obviously, Tracy can be a compliment in some form for sure. Deonte Banks physically is capable of being a part of a good secondary. I think mentally he needs to work on the studying aspect of it. I think his confidence needs to be rebuilt. He needs to have a coaching staff that knows how to play him and work with him. Like, these guys, I don't think Kayvon should be back on this team. I think Kayvon Thibodeau should be somewhere else. I personally do. But here's the thing. Without Martindale here and with the current defensive staff, like this product we're watching on the field is partially in relation to, like, you can see the Kayvon Thibodeaus and Deonte Banks. You can see these high picks of Joe Shane who aren't working out, right? Again, first-round picks, Joe Shane, Evan Neal, Kayvon Thibodeau, Deonte Banks, etc. You can also see the confidence drained from their bodies because they're not being given any solutions. They're not being told the answers to the test. Wink Martindale was telling these guys the answer to the test. He would give them a play call or work on something situational or work on a pressure, and then he would say, here's why I would call this, or here's the situation I'm going to call this in, and here's what I'll call before that to set it up, or here's what I'll call in the first quarter, and then in the fourth quarter I'll set it up for this, and here's why. So then the Deonte Banks of the world go, all right, yeah, no, that makes sense. Or the Jason Pinnock's would go, right, got it, okay, yeah, I was wondering why you're going to use me like that. That didn't really make any sense, but now I get it. They're not being given those answers to the test. G-Men says, if Joe Shane is back, it shows John Mara doesn't want to win. Simple. I agree. It means he doesn't know what it looks like, right? Johnny says, also the Giants must be fine with copying what's going on with Caleb Williams and the Bears if they're actually considering keeping Shane and Dable to draft the next QB. Talk about peak dysfunction. George says, Pat, do you really think if the Giants get Sanders in the draft, can he really make a difference with this offensive line? No, I don't. I think that question answers itself. I think that's a smart one, George. Jay says, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel. Thank you for saying that, Jay. It really does help us when people smash that like button. It's hard to explain, but the YouTube algorithm reacts to live likes. So not only all of your subscriptions and support means the world to me, but when you hit that like button live, YouTube reacts to that and recognizes people are engaging, right? All the comments you guys lay in, all the super chats you're dropping in, and all those likes and those subscriptions. Like if you're live and you subscribe while we're live, all of that support augments and kind of compounds, right, exponentially to increase our broadcast, increase our reach, increase our subscription base, and bring more people into our community. And we can talk NFL as well. It's not just Giants. I mean, what a huge loss there for the Eagles, a big drop by Devontae Smith, and a huge win by the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. Another example there of, obviously, Saquon looked great early before Hurts got injured. But then also on the Commanders side, it feels like Washington leapfrogged the Giants in that rotation, in that spinning wheel of who wins the NFC East and who's up and who's down next. It just feels like the Giants' turn got skipped is how it feels. That's the best way I can explain it. Looks like we got another super chat in the queue. Let me get down there. Thank you, everybody, for supporting and interacting. Patrick says, because Mara knows the moment they got rid of Jones, we all know they weren't going anywhere, and I can't believe anything Mara says anymore. He would never admit that publicly. Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's see. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Quick reminder, we're brought to you by MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98 Coffee. We'll have an Estate 98 Giants trivia question coming up soon. You can win a free bottle of Estate 98 Coffee, so that is coming. MyBookie.ag, open your account today. If you open that MyBookie account and you use the Pat's Picks promo code, you will get a 50% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000. So, for example, if you deposit $1,000 on that first deposit, use Pat's Picks as the promo code, then you will get $500 free to use in your account. It's great. It's a great deal. You can't miss now. I've been making you guys money on MyBookie all year with my picks, at least 3 Pat's Picks a week, plus Pat's Sprinkles, my Giant Sprinkles. It's Merry Christmas sprinkle time. We had Darnell Mooney over 80 receiving yards at plus, I think it was 225 hitting today. I'm always making people some coin right now. I'm just on a streak. I'm not winning them all, but I'm winning enough to make it worth your while. So sign up today. Also, brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. Boom Chaga is a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour your natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use this Talkin Ball 25 code or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. So that means $30 for a bag. Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard, brought to you by Boom Chaga. It's boomchaga.com. Start feeling the difference today. And brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, a specialty coffee concentrate, perfect for when you want to make a quick cup of coffee and skip the lines. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced or hot coffee. It's great as a mixer for espresso martinis, and each bottle makes up to 16 cups. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get an exclusive offer for 80% off your first order. Jay Farry says, Philly, game 17. Philly wants to humiliate us, ruin our draft. Giants will win for pride, character. We win a game and we pick around 7. Horrific season with no payoff. What do you think, Pat? Yeah, that'll be interesting. That Eagles scenario with who's playing for them, who's not. It just feels like, to your point, it feels like no matter what, based on how this season has gone, it'll be a worst case scenario, whether it's Saquon getting the rushing record or whether it's the Eagles sitting everybody if they can and they don't have the 1 seed to play for, and being in a position then where the Giants are winning a game and screwing their draft position. Totally agree. It just feels like it'll be a worst case scenario. That's just the way the Giants season has gone. T-Rex says, I've been watching your podcast for a few months now. I love that you say it like it is and you're not drinking the Kool-Aid. Keep it going. T-Rex, thank you so much. And thank you for that super chat. I really do appreciate that. Listen, this is the only way I know. And it wasn't received as well early on by a section of the fan base that felt like I was trying to be negative, let's say. But it really just happens. And I promise you, like, I spent time thinking about what's going on here, right? What happened was I joined the beat as the Giants franchise was going like this. And I started on a playoff season, but then what happened from there was all of the terrible decisions regarding Eli Manning and regarding, firing coaches every 2 years and ripping it up and sticking with Dave Gettleman and on and on and on. The dysfunction has just persisted since I've joined, and it's really gone into the tank. And so, I always joke with people that, at this point, it's like, I always say, yeah, you don't root for teams anymore as a reporter and as a journalist and as a columnist. You root for individuals and people like that who you meet along the way, who you're cheering for and who you feel like they're good people and you want them to succeed. But now at this point, man, I'm a Giants fan like the rest of you in the sense that it hurts me when they lose this badly. People get apathetic. Fans don't want to hear it anymore. Like this is where it goes. And I'm not the only content creator and reporter and journalist who could say that. You look at the analytics, you look at how many people are watching, how many people are participating, how many people are interested in the team. It's bad. And this is all the Giants doing. Now, I think one thing I always try to convey to people too is like, there's too many rabbit ears in the Giants building. They have to stop. I'm honored that they read what I write or listen to what I say. And, everyone who creates content, you get a phone call from someone with the Giants complaining about what you're saying or doing. It does validate you to a certain extent that they're listening, right? They view you as relevant enough to be listening, and they feel like enough people are paying attention to you that it matters what you say, right? But it doesn't affect the bottom line. It doesn't affect like what I say or do or what a podcast says or does doesn't impact the product on the field. It's not the reason for the wins or the losses, right? You don't give if Giants podcasts are pumping the tires of the team saying everything's great and the team wins, you don't say that the Giants were winning because all these people were saying great things and creating a positive environment, right? They don't get credit for that. So why would they get blamed for criticizing, the worst football in franchise history when they have nothing to do with the team? So just to recap, 34-7 loss to the Atlanta Falcons. The Giants are now, this is the worst. This is one of the worst Giants teams in franchise history. They have now set a franchise record with 10 straight losses. No Giants team has lost 10 straight games. It's the first time they've ever done it. I believe Joe Judge, the most he lost in a row was 5, I think, or 6. I think it was 6. Yeah, Joe Judge lost 6 in a row. Ben McAdoo lost 5 in a row. And Pat Shermer lost 9 in a row. So Brian Daboll now, holds the trophy, stands in first place on the podium. 10 straight losses alongside Joe Shane. Christian says, team looked undisciplined again. Daboll has to go. Don't think Shane has done enough to keep his job either. I would preach patience, but this team has gotten worse each year. We're going backwards. KTS wants Cam Ward and says this team has no talent. Randy says, Sims versus Elway, Hostetler versus Kelly, Manning versus Brady. The Giants won because they have better overall rosters with good quarterback play. Build the roster. Right now, it's terrible. Randy, smartest thing that's been said today. Totally agree with you. Greg says, do we need to see any more? Clean house. Hunter says, notice how even the other bad teams put up points and look like a competent team. Panthers just put up 36. Titans put up 30. We haven't done that in like 2 years. Great points. You guys are so smart. Seriously, you're like a really, really smart, perceptive fan base. This is always something I always encourage Giants fans and any fan of any team to do. And I know, listen, you guys have jobs and lives and families. And so, this is a hobby and a passion, right? Not everyone does this for a job, which I count myself lucky to do. But I always encourage people to try to make sure you take the full context of the league. And when you're evaluating the Giants and evaluating your team, try to look around at what other teams look like and how they're performing, how they're evolving, how they're faring. What are they doing to improve? What foundations are they laying? Like if the Giants say, here's what our foundation looks like. If another's looks better or worse, compare it, contrast it, right? Like what is the reason for it? Why is this team winning? Why are they losing? Why is another team that has a roster that's just as bad or worse on paper improving while this one looks like this? And I don't know if I brought this up earlier, but the Giants, so here are some stats. So the Giants are about to have, most likely, the worst outright record in the NFL for the first time since 1966. If they go winless at home with a loss to the Colts next week, which they will have their first winless season at home since 1974. They will go winless in the division if they lose to the Eagles in Week 18 for the first time ever. They'll be the first team in NFL history to go 0-9 at home. And they will have the number 1 pick for the first time since 1965. Now, John Mara was actually on video after those stats were thrown up on the Fox broadcast today. The Fox broadcast cut to John Mara in the box, in the booth, in the suites after showing those stats. And Mara appeared to notice that he was being put on camera and threw up his hand like this and turned around and walked away, seemingly in frustration. And that's where they are. But, John doesn't have to be too upset because this broadcast, tried its best to carry some water. But obviously the product on the field spoke for itself. I have to go grab my battery. We've been going so long, and I've been spitting such hot fire here on Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard post game. Stick here. I'll be back in 30 seconds. To be honest, I wasn't sure this was going to be a very long Talkin Ball postgame live, but the fan interest, the audience, your guys' participation has been so strong that we are going strong. We're 50 minutes in, not stopping. Here we go. Let's see. We have another super chat in the queue. Let's go to Mello. He says it's time for John Mara to take the James Dolan route. The Giants have been terrible the last 10 years. What are your thoughts on that? It's not only so Mello. So Mello, when you say go the James Dolan route, are you talking about like what he did with the Rangers and the Knicks, where they endure? Are you talking about where like you endure years of losing and of an unwatchable product, but you just essentially continue to tank until you accrue enough first round picks and top picks um, to start competing? I mean, is that what you're alluding to? Because if that's what you're alluding to, then I guess in that sense, you could view that as Mara and as the Giants embracing the times and, finally running themselves like a modern organization, because there are other franchises and in the NFL out there operating in that way for sure. And in pro sports operating that way. But Mello, the thing is, like, first of all, to compare John Mara to James Dolan, I mean, holy cow. First of all, like the Giants, if, hearing that would just make their skin crawl to be compared to him, first of all, as an owner. Number two, I almost view the Giants as I view the Yankees in this way. Like, they're not the Yankees compared to their dominance. But what I mean is this. Like, I was having a conversation earlier with somebody about how the Yankees are fascinating because they always have to show people that they're trying to compete and trying to contend because nothing else is satisfactory. Now, obviously the amount that they can spend in baseball, it's not the same thing. But you look at in the NFL with the Giants, rebuilding is one thing. People will accept that you are rebuilding if you need to hit the reset button and kind of reset the way that you operate your franchise, not just the way that you build your roster, like you're starting from the studs up. But when you talk about acquiring talent to build a team that can compete on the field, there's only so much patience that a Giants fan is going to have for, the amount of time it takes for you to get yourself back to being a playoff team and to being competitive. And I think that's what the biggest frustration is right now, Mello, is Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll supposedly already had laid a lot of the groundwork for this to steadily improve. And the most jarring thing about this is it has clearly gotten worse. It's gotten dramatically worse from how they run things to how they operate to what the talent is on the field to how the players respond. Everything's bad. Everything's bad. And you can't ask for 5 years and 6 years and 7 years for a regime when it's had 3 years and the entire product on the field has gone in the toilet. So in that sense, I think Giants fans only have so much patience for the type of teardown you're talking about. And I feel like also don't insult a Giants fan's intelligence when it comes to telling them where you are in the process, on the timeline, on the chronology, right? Don't tell me in year one, this is a long-term build. In year two, you make moves to say, look at the progress we made in year one. Now we're even a little further ahead than we thought we would be. We make these acquisitions here. We're going to take this next step. We're going to pay this quarterback. We're going to tag this running back. And then it goes in the tank, right? It goes down in the tank. Now let's just keep getting rid of some of our good players. Let's hold some personal grudges when it comes to contract negotiations. Let's keep getting rid of all of these leaders in our locker room. Saquon Barkley, Julian Love, Xavier McKinney, Leonard Williams, right? Go on down the list. And you miss on enough draft picks where as you're getting rid of those players and you're blaming it all on contracts and on money and on numbers, you're not replacing them even with replacement level talent. Like, listen, some of these guys I like as people, but they thought Tyler Nubin and Jason Pinnock were going to be adequate replacements at safety for Xavier McKinney and Julian Love. What are we talking about when we say that John Mara has confidence in the people who made that decision? What are we talking about? Sorry for screaming. What are we talking about when we say this regime has spent multiple mid-round picks and a third-round pick plus a contract restructure and payment on Darren Waller on the tight end position, and they still don't have a tight end? What are we talking about with the regime? Look at the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. Jordan Mailata, 7th-round pick. Landon Dickerson, 2nd-round pick. Cam Jurgens, 2nd-round pick. Mekhi Becton, rehabbed, former first-round tackle, moved to guard, and Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer. The Giants have had draft picks. Josh Azudu, unplayable. Evan Neal, we all see what's going on there. They refused to try him at guard, which is probably his best position. Marcus McKeithen, not on the team. John Michael Schmidt's not good enough. They barely got into this season with a starting offensive line. They had to sign guys, Greg Van Roten late. They had to spend a ton of money this spring just to put a starting 5 on the field. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Patrick says, I've been watching the Giants since the Phil Simms era when they were actually good and winning games. At first, I was saying to get rid of Shane, but I'm going to finally side with you, Pat. Everyone has to go. Patrick also adds later, I love your passion, Pat. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for all this support. I really appreciate you. Patrick says, where is Tish? Listen, Patrick, we all know. Here's what I would say about Steve Tisch. Obviously, personally, over the last few years, had a really difficult time. And I think that at this point, I view that as the Tisch family. So his brother Jonathan is the treasurer. He's involved. Steve Tisch, obviously, as co-owner. But I would say, rather than calling out Steve Tisch, I would just say the Tisch family has to weigh in on this. The Tisch family has to weigh on this. And usually, Patrick, to your point, when the Maras know what needs to be done or they have a hunch at what needs to be done and they don't do it, usually when it gets over the hump, it's because the Tisches help push it there. Mello says, I met with the hiring of Leon Rose. Yeah. You know what, Mello? We're there. We're there. Yep, we're there. Jay Barry says, Pat, thanks for doing this every week. I didn't agree with you in the beginning of the year about how bad this all was, but you were right. This is embarrassing. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. At the beginning of the year, in August, in July, I wanted to be fair, especially you want to be fair to a team, to players, to a locker room. So you don't want to you can't end their season before it starts. So publicly, I did not say this at the time. But, and I have text messages to prove it, I was telling people behind the scenes, just based on my evaluation of the team, my evaluation of the roster, my conversations with league sources about who the Giants were, about contextually what they were compared to other teams, about all the problems happening with their roster, with their operation inside the building. I was texting people in August, telling them, and even in July, telling them that this could be the worst Giants team in franchise history. Okay. I didn't say it to you guys then, but I was telling you problems were happening. I told you it could look bad. I picked that they could win 3 or 4 games was my prediction. I think I picked it as 3 in some areas and 4 in others. I had to go back and see what my final one in August 31st was. I think it was 4, might have been 3. But either way, I thought that this had all the signs to be possibly the worst Giants team in franchise history, and here we are. Mark disagrees that injuries are Shane's fault. Which GM would have predicted Neal's struggles? I mean, Mark, they drafted him. Of course. I mean, no one else drafted him. As far as injuries have been a huge problem before this regime, and they'll continue to be a problem. Training staff is one of those areas and rooms that has been just completely Teflon and insulated from all these changes, regime in and regime out. One example of why Bill Belichick was wary of coming to the Giants. But how you operate, how you hold people accountable, whether you stand out to people in the building or not, and yes, how you prepare your team and how you practice is on the GM and the coach who plan that, as well as the training staff. Do I think the Giants should trade their number 1 pick and build other positions and sign a bridge quarterback? It looks like that based on how the roster looks. You definitely don't want to force a pick. You do not force a pick. That forcing a position pick when it's not the best player is a horrendous decision. Dean thinks the Giants should sack Daboll tonight. Tony says clean house. This is ridiculous. Hunter says realistically, we need Travis Hunter and play him like he is in college every snap. Mark disagrees, says they need a quarterback, not a two-way player. Hunter says I'd rather admit they are tanking because the product is so gross to say you're not tanking. Daboll wrecked another quarterback. Crazy Man says you could tell in the first half just how the defense played. They gave up on them. Evan says Panthers are the definition of a fighting team and trying to win for their coach. The Giants don't have that same mentality. Stefan says you should make clear there was a possibility Jones is not healthy enough for week 1, so Locke was more of a pure backup. Well, no, Stefan, there was also conversations had with Drew Lock that they wanted him to come in and compete. He just didn't show it in training camp for it to become that. Let's see. Patrick says, scream, bro, because I agree. They keep getting rid of good foundational players like McKinney, Saquon Love, Williams, and Dalvin Tomlinson. That was going back a while, who wanted to stay, but they didn't want to re-sign him. Yep. Let's see. All right. We've been going past an hour now. If you've been saying something in the chat and you want it heard and you're way down the list, please recognize I might not get to everything today because a lot of people have been contributing and posting, but I will try my best. And if I don't, though, super chats or super stickers are the way to have me address it before we sign off here. All right. And yes, we are live here, Talkin Ball Postgame live with Pat Leonard here on the YouTube channel, PL on NFL, and on the Believe Network. And if you're listening on audio on Apple or Spotify, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify on the Believe Network, thank you for listening and subscribing. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, PL on NFL, and join us here. Hit the like button while we are live as well. Everybody who is here, that helps engagement here, and it helps grow our channel, tells everybody what we are doing, and that this is a safe space. And I don't just mean a safe space to vent and be frustrated. I also mean if you disagree with what I'm saying, or if you see some positives, or if you want to talk about another team or other NFL action that you saw. And like I said, being sponsored by MyBookie, we're knee deep in all the bets, the highs, the lows, the prop bets, the parlays, the overs, the unders, the favorites, the underdogs, all in on that. So love talking shot when it comes to lines, betting, bad beats, things like that. Like today, I gave out the Eagles and it didn't hit because they choked and lost that game at Washington after Jalen Hurts went down. So, that was one game that didn't hit, but I love talking about this stuff and anything's on the table. All right, let's see. Let me get back into the queue here. Yeah, man, so many good comments here, trying to get to them. But like I said, like Patrick has shown such a great example today. And Patrick, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. But that's the way to get your voice heard, super chats or super stickers. Let's see. All right. All right. All right. Next in the queue, we have J-Fed said Russell Wilson wasn't signing here without a guaranteed starter. Daniel Jones was the starter. That's true, but again, they're Jones' decision. You pay him, and then you double down on the mistake by not inviting Russell Wilson here on a minimum deal because you paid Daniel Jones. So you make the mistake twice. Hunter says props to Wilson for avoiding this shit show. Amazing career choice. Let's see. Victor says Pat Hanlon called talking Giants to pressure them about a video they posted. Giants care more about PR than winnings. That was an alarming thing to hear because of I believe what Bobby said was that I think what he said was that they asked to have the video taken down, or related to something related to credentials or access, whatever it was. Like I said earlier, without commenting directly on the specifics and not having been on that conversation, what I told the Revival guys is what I'll tell you guys, which is did not surprise me to hear that someone had gotten a call that was not a positive call about critical coverage of the Giants was my answer. Todd says, did this disaster make us appreciate Daniel Jones? We wouldn't look this pathetic with Daniel Jones under center. Absolutely right. Tiger says, Joe and Brian need to go. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Tiger. Thank you. Matthew says, Pat, what happens to Evan Neal next year? Well, they should have trained him and tried him at guard this year. I don't know why they didn't. That was it's pretty alarming that they just tried to force it. It almost seems like they've tried to force and validate their evaluation of him on us by keeping him at tackle. It was obviously the wrong decision. I said very early in the season that this guy should have been given a chance as a left guard, even if you were leaving him as the backup to John Runyon Jr. You know what I mean? Even if you left him as the backup at that position and he wasn't starting because you still are trying to kind of rehab his career, why force it at right tackle? It's not going to happen. He's not most comfortable there. It's obvious. It's clear. So what's going to happen with him? I don't know. I mean, I find it hard to believe he would be on their starting 5 offensive line next year. But, hey, if Joe Shane's back, think you can count on him being on that offensive line, right? Keep running him back. Keeps running Josh Azudu out there. He had Josh Azudu as the backup left tackle to Andrew Thomas this year after last year. How is that possible? You almost feel like you're taking crazy pills when you feel it when you're having arguments about this with people. It's insane. It's insanity. The kid on the spot says, hi, Pat. Great job calling out these clowns. But when can we see some changes in the front office, after Christmas or after the season? I mean, it feels like it's going to be after the season at this point. I mean, is John Mara going to do it now, a couple days before Christmas? I mean, he should have done it a month ago. I mean, is he going to do it now a couple days before Christmas and let them go into the Christmas break with like nobody running the team? I mean, I don't know. I mean, at this point, it feels like the Giants have dug their heels in. I don't know why. My guess is after the season. Hunter says we need a new owner. Let some other billionaire give a shit about the product. Look at Washington. Less than a year later, they have a new owner. They have 10 wins. Ed says, why does everyone blame Mara? 3 years ago, they hired outside the organization that everyone wanted. Well, Ed, because they made the wrong hires, right? Yeah, they went outside the organization, but they hired a guy who didn't know how to pick good players, and they hired a guy who half his staff left because they didn't want to work with him anymore. The GM had to monitor him on the headset, and he was supposed to be an offensive genius. It turned out he just had Josh Allen. So it's the wrong hires. He keeps making the wrong hires. Cosmo says Giants are like a political organization. They hired a publicist to follow the media. They plant stories with reporters. They spin that the GM and coach are good and that the team is making progress. Cosmos, now you see it, right? No, that's what public relations is. Totally. Edwin says, fire everyone, clean house. This GM and this coach is bad and GM. Chowski says the broadcast showed Mara visibly upset after not going for it on 4th down in the first half. Looked to me like he saw himself on camera, didn't like that. But are you talking about a separate instance, Chowski? Giants can't block or tackle. After the first drive against the Cowboys last year, the team has gone straight downhill, says Cosmos. Let's see. I think I had a super chat here down below. Sean says, Pat, should the Giants make right with Brian Flores and hire him as the coach? They need some discipline and the defense would be elite. Thoughts? I like the idea, Sean. I like the idea. I used to like the idea of Wink Martindale being the head coach here. But after what happened with him, I don't know if you could, how do they say, put that cat in the bag, so to speak, where he basically had to walk away from a dream job because the Giants were enabling an absolute shit show, right? So, I don't hate that idea. I don't know if that's possible. I think it's worth asking. I think that's worth asking. Sean, thank you for that super chat. All right, let's see here. What else we got? A lot of questions in the queue. Man, oh man, I'm losing my spot in here. There's so many. Yeah, so to recap, Giants lost 34-7. They have been outscored in their last 5 games 140-59. And I don't think we talked about this yet, but the only thing that was missing from this game was a plane flying overhead the stadium. It's a good thing for John Mara and for the Giants that Atlanta plays in a dome at Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta. So they couldn't have a plane flying overhead with a banner, right? And the problem, though, is that they're coming back home to play the Colts next week, a team that just ran through the Tennessee Titans. How about that, by the way? The coach there, Brian Callahan, adamant that his team is not soft, and then his team goes out and plays as soft as can be against a division rival. Oh, boy. That's sometimes jobs come open that people don't expect to come open. You always have to watch this time of year when teams turn in performances like that. The Giants are one. The Titans are on watch, even though that's a new coach. Joey B says, Pat, just tell me why isn't anyone being let go and what's the right way to get it fixed? Who do we bring in as coach, GM, coordinators? Worst season ever. Joey, I don't know why they're not firing everybody right now. I don't know why people aren't losing their jobs. I don't know why there isn't accountability. I think John Mara, after saying in October that he wasn't going to make any changes during the season and that he doesn't anticipate making any changes after the season, I believe, my guess is that what he's doing now is trying to hold to that promise. And he's trying to say to himself, I want to, at least give them to the end of the season and then adjudge the full kind of picture. Like, I think, if there's anything more embarrassing than having to fire these guys, it's having to fire them before the season ends when you came out and adamantly said, I'm not firing anybody until the season is over, right? I would argue that it's more embarrassing to stick with a product that looks like this, Joe. That's what I would argue. But let's see. Your question about which GM and coach and coordinators. Like I said, I don't know if that Flores thing is a possibility. I would investigate it. I think I will investigate it. I think the Ben Johnson, John Dorsey thing is something to explore. Absolutely. Dorsey's a guy with experience. I mean, he's made his share of mistakes, though, too. I think it's unfortunate for the Giants that Bill Belichick now has a new job, although he could certainly leave North Carolina to come to the Giants with that buyout, right? But clearly that's not his design there. He takes Mike Lombardi with him as GM there, so they're running it in North Carolina. I mean, they need a full tear-down reset. I mean, you look around the league, does Arthur Smith do anything for you as a head coach and a smart offensive mind? In Pittsburgh, it actually looks like he feels like he's a good fit with the Steelers is what it looks like to me. So Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, that actually might be a tandem for a while there from what it looks like from my vantage point. Around the league, I think, Joey B, that Mike Borgonzi with the Chiefs, somebody you have to take a hard look at. I think all of the teams that are doing well, right? So you look at the Chiefs, the Lions, the Eagles. There's a lot of different organizations where I think you need to study what they do. And what you do is you bring in their top lieutenants and you interview them. Now, you don't want to bring in a first timer. You don't want to bring in somebody who you don't have a good enough read on their ability to handle New York either. And so, Joe, I'll be honest with you, like, it's possible the Giants haven't made a change yet because internally they do not look at it and see an absolutely obvious, like, home run. Like, in other words, Belichick's not there anymore. So they don't see that obvious, like, yeah, let's pull the plug and go right to that, like they just don't see it. And so that's why they haven't made the change yet. That could be possible. But Joe, you can build a better team and a better operation and a better staff with a better GM and head coach. And it doesn't have to be like, Mike Vrabel's obviously the best coach on the market right now, but it doesn't have to be Vrabel and like the next George Young. It just needs to be people who know how to pick good players and strategize, build a football team to compete in the game, Hunter says, why wouldn't Shane jump the gun and fire Dable and try to save his ass? Well, it looked like to me like the Giants were trying to save Shane. Oh, I got to be careful here. Looked to me like the Giants were trying to save Shane's butt with the leaks and the push this week about firing the coach and keeping the GM, and that might be possible, and that's how it's probably going to go, and that Maris still has confidence in the GM. So I think it's already been happening. Like, I think we're already seeing it. It's a shame. It's a shame, but can't say I didn't tell you so. All right. Let's see. Okay. So today, this is some NFL trivia. So we're going to do the Estate 98 Giants trivia. Okay. Malik Neighbors today set the Giants rookie record for receptions in the season with his 92nd catch early in the game. So Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley both had 91. Beckham set it in 2014. Barkley tied it in 2019 or 18. So now that Neighbors has the Giants record, he is chasing, and Brock Bowers from the Raiders, they are both chasing NFL history. Okay. Now here is your Estate 98 Giants trivia question of the day. That means I'm going to ask the question, and you guys are going to put your answers in the queue. And the first person to answer the question correctly is going to win a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. You're going to put your answer as quickly as you can in the comments section, okay? Entering week 16, both Neighbors and Brock Bowers were on track to join a select group of rookies to reach 100 receptions. This is in NFL history. Only 3 players in NFL history have reached 100 or more receptions in their rookie season. Who are they? 3 players prior to this year. So Neighbors and Brock Bowers, they're trying to catch them. 3 players in NFL history with 100 or more receptions as a rookie. Who are they? This is in NFL history. Let's see. Jose says Puka Nacua. That is 1. Correct. Who else? 2 more guesses coming in. Not OBJ, no. Joey B, Puka, Waddle, and Anquan Bolden. Correct. Great job. Puka Nacua, Jalen Waddle, and Anquan Bolden. So, Jose Rosario and Joey B. You guys both win a free bottle of Estate 98. Send me your addresses if you haven't already, and I will get you a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee out to you. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you for playing, everybody who dropped those guesses in. All right, let's see. Yeah, I know that wasn't a terribly difficult one. I know, but frankly, Giants didn't do a lot that was worthy of history today. So that's about as far as we're going today with the Giants trivia. But yeah, so Jose and Joey B. You guys win. Jose, DM me your address. So I'm on Instagram, PL on NFL. So Jose and Joey B, go on my Instagram, direct message me your address. It's at PL on NFL is my handle, and I will send a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee out to you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you. All right, so we are brought to you here by MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98 coffee. MyBookie, go to mybookie.ag, use the Pat's Picks promo code. I have a link in all my social media profiles. Go to that link, and you want to click on that link, make your first deposit. It's $50 or more, up to $1,000. If you use the Pat's Picks promo code, you'll get 50% match on that first deposit. Also, for Boom Chaga, you're going to go to boomchaga.com and use the Talkin Ball 25 code or the QR code on your screen right here, and you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. Okay. So right now that means a bag costs you only $30. I think you'll stay subscribed if you subscribe there. So go get that. Also, we're going to Estate 98. So it's estate98.com/talkinball. Go to that link and make your first order there. You'll get an exclusive offer, 80% off your first order of Estate 98 coffee. Jose, what is your Twitter handle? Drop your Twitter handle in and you can send it there. Tell me your Twitter handle now, though, so I can make sure I get it. Joey B says he never got his other Estate 98. It's in the mail, Joey B. Don't worry about it. Typically, like we have a couple Talkin Ball lives in a row or a few, and then they kind of all go out at once. So it'll be coming to you. Don't worry about it. You'll get your other one as well. Jose, drop that Twitter handle in here now so I can see it. Okay, let me see. I'll make sure that that I look for that coming in and that we have that sent out to you. Yes, Jay Farries, the check is in the mail, Joey B. Guys, you've been the best. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody here who contributed to this chat, especially our super chatters. So that's Daniel Saint, Daniel Hirsch, John, Candyman, Jay Farries, Daniel Hirsch, Patrick Evans. Patrick Evans again checking in as MVP candidate for our chat. Jay Farries, T-Rex, Mello. Patrick Evans rolling through. Mello follows up. Jay Barry 80. Patrick, Victor, Sean, Joey B, Hunter, Milan Fan Club, San Diego, and Joey B Comedy as well. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Milan, looks like I missed your super chat there, although I just read it out. So let me get to Milan's super chat. Man, this is such a crowded queue. I completely missed that. You know when it came in? Right when we were doing that Estate 98 trivia, and a lot of people dropped some good answers in there. All right. So we'll end on this. Milan Fan Club San Diego says, hey, Pat, how is my call for creating an office of football operations with Coughlin as VP and let him hire the GM/head coach with the ownership groups okay? I don't know if it would be Coughlin necessarily, Milan, as the head, but I do think if you did that, you would want him involved and you want him as a sounding board. Coughlin has not been in and around the league as much anymore. So you would want somebody who is still plugged into kind of the inner workings of the NFL. But I think that anybody who's anyone from the Giants past and the Giants greats, from Coughlin to Phil Simms to Harry Carson and Leonard Marshall, and you could just keep rattling off those names. All of those guys, I think, should be included in weighing in where this Giants franchise needs to go and in what moves need to happen. I think your point about creating that office of operations, I said this before, you have to be careful about putting too many guys in the kitchen, too many cooks in the kitchen. But clearly the way the Giants operate is not working. And I would say, I would end it on this. It is very obvious that the people running the Giants right now don't adequately assess themselves. They never fully understand how good or bad or ahead or behind they are. And so you do need somebody who is able to come in with a set of fresh eyes. We'll end on this. Jim says Saquon ran for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hunter says, Merry Christmas, Pat, and fellow Giants fans. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you so much for being a part of Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard live postgame here on the Believe Network and on the PL on NFL YouTube channel. If you joined us late or you're just catching us, please listen in to the full episode on my Believe Network channel on Apple, Spotify, wherever you are. You can listen there. You can weigh in. And if there are big moves from the Giants, you'll hear from me soon, and we'll go live as quickly as possible here on the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard YouTube channel. But if not, expect likely to hear from me next here on this channel live after the Colts game, after the Giants' final home game against the Indianapolis Colts, likely to fall to 0-9 in a winless home season. We'll end with some cheer. Milan says Merry Christmas. No Met says Happy Holidays. Simeon says Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you all. See you guys next time on Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard.